There's something special about a good old game of Mario Party, you know? Getting together with a few friends to mash some buttons, plan out your upcoming turns on the board of your choice, building and crushing alliances, basically at the toss of a dice. It is such a good formula that has worked so well for generations. For the most part. And then the Mario Party games started getting bad, etc, etc. This is a story I'm pretty sure most of you are caught up with. Opinions on the console Mario Party games are already well established, like how the day-night mechanic in Mario Party 6 makes that the best one. That's just an objective fact. Whether or not you agree with it is not my problem. However, there is a side to this story that doesn't get discussed anywhere near as often. Oh god. Mario Party on portables. Conceptually, this makes perfect sense. Nintendo's handheld consoles sell like crazy, so there is definitely a market for taking the party on the go. These are also not numbered entries, so this allows the developers to try something new. What could possibly go wrong? Oh. Alright, to be fair, those scores are based on when the games launched. Maybe looking back at these in retrospect, we'll find something special here. 5 parties in 3 different houses. I know people are gonna bring up Super Mario Party since it's on the Switch and one of the main console selling points is the portability, but for some reason, that game doesn't support handheld mode. Years later, that still doesn't make any sense, so that one is disqualified. And no, we're not gonna talk about Mario Party E here. It was a cute little e-reader novelty, sure, but I'm gonna need a lot more time to build up the willpower to actually play it. So, back to square one, back to 2005. Starting off, we have Mario Party Advance, and this game is primarily single player. Oh, we're off to a great start. Hi there. Hello. Before we really dive into things, I gotta talk about just how this game starts up. We're making a passport, apparently. You got your name, your month of birth, no date, just the month, that's interesting. You make an avatar. Wow, that's kinda cool, actually. Mario Party Advance did Miis before Miis were a thing. Okay. Yeah, that's me, alright. You then get to input your favorite hobby. I'm a big apostrophe guy myself. And finally, a random comment. I couldn't really fit the whole thing, so like, comment, subscribe. That'll get the job done. You then get asked what your biggest dream is and what your silliest secret is. I'm sorry, we're getting really personal here. I'm not really all that comfortable saying all these personal details. Okay, I sure hope no one finds out. And the real kicker is none of this stuff matters. As far as I know, there is no other point in the game where it calls back to the answers you provided, so what's the point? The main mode of the game is Shroom City, the only thing even remotely reminiscent of the series staple board games. And you're in a car as well. Wow, we should have saw the dark times coming long ago. You roll the dice, you move across the board to specifically marked locations. That's it. Whenever you get to a new spot, a little cutscene will play out starting off a brand new quest, usually leading to the most basic of minigames you could possibly imagine, or even a fetch quest, you know, the most fun thing you could ever do at a party. I love the snowman one. He challenges you to baseball. Swing for the fences, I doubt you can do it. He's dead now. There really isn't that much more here than that. You got a bunch of these locations all across the map, and by completing enough of the challenges, you can travel over to Bowser's place and play a special minigame against him. You do that enough times, that's the game. You only have a few dice rolls per round as well. You play minigames to try to gain more. If you run out of dice and hit 0, well, that's it. You either move on to do something else, or you go back in for more. Failing the minigames is often common as well. They're pretty vague with their instructions, so expect to consistently start off at the beginning and plan your route from there. But that's fine, that's basically essential. Some of the quests you can only do with specific characters. The eyeball has a princess only policy, apparently, and a cute little dinosaur, you know, that couldn't possibly do. I suppose if you're looking for a time waster, this will certainly do that. This isn't a party, this is more or less the video game equivalent of doing chores. And not in the fun Animal Crossing way. I will say this much, I do think the game's sprites are pretty nice, you know, I've always been a fan of the game's style, even if we lost some playable characters along the way. Rest in peace, Waluigi. And as for the minigames, well, they're minigames alright. But like I said before, Mario Party Advance is primarily single player, so these games are all about either getting to the end or getting a bunch of points. And in general, the whole lack of competition just makes this entire thing feel pretty pointless. There are a couple multiplayer games you can play with the link cable, so that's appreciated, but they're off to the side in a separate mode. They feel like even more of a total afterthought. Oh, but we do have a bunch of toys that we can gain access to, that's fun. How can I possibly forget about the extra bit where you can guess what direction the stick is gonna fall in? Oh boy, this party is too much for me. Oh hey, there's a sheep counting one as well, which is great because this game is putting me to sleep. I mean, I guess I just didn't know what to expect. I mean, obviously a Game Boy Advance wasn't gonna come close to providing an experience that the console Mario Party games can. But you know you didn't have to make a Game Boy Advance game, right? But now we have the Nintendo DS. This is a console that could better handle a Mario extravaganza. Power-wise, the DS was already kinda sort of an N64 you can put in your pocket, and it sold ridiculously well, so there was no shortage of people to play with. Now, the time may be right to give this type of game a shot. And I mean, look at the box art! They're running across blue spaces! Things are already looking up. My god. Yeah, this is Mario Party on the DS. Oh, awesome! Finally, in a more typical Mario Party fashion, we have multiple boards to play on, all of which having a different theme. 4 different characters, you roll the dice, you save up coins to get stars. This is honest to goodness Mario Party. And yeah, it's pretty good. We even have a story mode that ties everything together. Bowser gets his hands on a special scepter that shrinks everybody down to a very tiny size, and the only way to reverse it is to collect sky crystals by defeating the bosses of all the boards. Simple premise, this is a Mario Party game after all, but the thing that's really cool is the game fully embraces the smaller scope. For example, the first board is a flower garden where all the plants tower over you in size. One of the later ones is a pinball table where getting knocked around is one of the primary gimmicks. And the mini games, they may not all hit the tiny aesthetic, but most of them do. Running away from a vacuum cleaner, feeding a shy guy candy, a game of chicken where you see who stops the furthest down a chalkboard without face planting. It's really cool stuff. Do you remember the minigame Shock, Drop, and Roll from Mario Party 2? Pretty fun one. Well, you give it a new coat of paint, you call it Rotisserie Rampage, and it is fresh once again. This game also uses the touchscreen, so it plays differently as well. As a matter of fact, there are multiple games that use the touchscreen, making good use of one of the DS's best features. Likewise, a few of the games also use the microphone, making good use of one of the DS's least interesting features. You know, kudos to the developers for giving it multiple shots, but microphones and Mario Party don't mix. I'm sorry, just not my thing. Overall, they are more or less on par with your standard run-of-the-mill minigames, but the style really gives this game its own identity. It's kinda like the pop-up book aesthetic from Mario Party 3. The chances of getting together a group of people to knock out a board game or two may not be as high as it was back when the game was new, and even still, it doesn't compete with some of the best you can find on consoles, but regardless, it is a damn good effort. Outside of the story, we also have a handful of multiplayer modes, a decent amount of collectibles to go for, and also a pretty nifty puzzle mode, pulling in multiple puzzle games from the previous Mario Parties. I remember playing Puzzle Party so much back in Mario Party 3, and I love that it's found its place here too. This entire mode is actually pretty cool, and it's a really nice way to celebrate a part of the series' history. Boy, do I ever love foreshadowing. So this is pretty impressive. We went from absolutely pointless with Mario Party Advance to not one of the best, but definitely one of the more interesting games in the series with Mario Party DS. I mean, at its core, it just feels like Mario Party, which, you know, may not sound like that big of a deal for a game titled Mario Party, but boy, do I love foreshadowing. If you want to check the game out, it's also available digitally on the Wii U, which eliminated any chance of playing in multiplayer, so you know, not everything about the game is good. Advance and DS were the only portable contributions developed by the initial series developers, Hudson Soft. Advance may not be good, but at least it's original, and I'll give them credit, they worked with what they got. I guess. But I'll be damned, if you're a fan of this series, I would definitely recommend DS. Uh-oh. And now's where things go completely off the rails. You know how the development team shifted from Mario Party 9 from Hudson Soft to ND Cube, and a lot of people hated it? Well, guess who developed the 3DS games? These 3 games go back to that initial idea of, hey, they're not main numbered entries, we can do something new here. And on almost all accounts, they do a terrible job evoking the vibe that a good old-fashioned Mario Party game should have. Sure, maybe having a party on the go is destined to fail and the DS game is simply a fluke, but considering 9 and 10 were developed around these games and we're all aware of how well they were received, I just don't think they really cared. You may have assumed that with the previous game being good and a jump to new hardware, things are gonna get even better. But no. Oh no. The story on 3DS begins with Island Tour, and while it does start up with a minor glimmer of hope, it doesn't take long for that to get totally dashed. I'm gonna be straight up with all of you. The boards here, they just suck. All of them. For one, they're all linear, and while the car concept gave us linear boards as well, at least that was done in an effort to make turns go by faster. But also, we're back to the each person takes a turn approach, so now it feels even longer for a turn to finish since everyone's going down the same straight line separately, while the person in first place is more guaranteed to win than ever before. Terrible gimmicks too, having to constantly duck and cover from a potential bonsai bill blast in an otherwise ridiculously short course may be one of the worst boards in series history. That being said though, the minigames, they're quite alright. I'll give the game credit, Island Tour is home to a solid bunch of minigames, some of which using some of the features of the 3DS, like the gyroscope and the touchscreen. And thankfully, there are some extra minigame exclusive modes, and those are definitely more fun than any of the boards. One of the minigames I really liked is one where you draw on the touchscreen so you can keep track of 12 enemy cards. That is one of the most clever minigames in the entire series. There's even a few augmented reality games too. Yeah, that stack of cards the 3DS initially came with, you remember those? In practice, it's a little more novel than it is fun, but I got a slight kick out of it. Graphically, the game looks okay, so at least the jump in hardware showed something positive here, but overall, Island Tour is a bit of a train wreck. The following attempt was Mario Party Star Rush. Thankfully, this one fares a bit better. Rather than attempting to put a spin on what worked in the past, this time we kinda just got a ton of ideas thrown at a board, and whether or not they were gonna stick is totally up in the air. The main feature here is Toad Scramble, where a group of 4 toads move around a board, collecting coins and getting stars, as you would expect, but everybody moves independently, at the same time, and you're free to move in any direction as you wish. Playing as generic toads is pretty lame, but one objective you have is to recruit other Mario characters to join your party, and doing so gives you some of their benefits for the rest of the game. They allow you to use special dice blocks, and they can also handle specific obstacles across the boards. And another kind of neat example, minigames don't really pop up super often, but if you get to reach a boss fight, rather than all 4 characters jumping in at the same time, the remaining characters have to rush over to the spot while you score some points early on. Say what you will about the newer Mario Party games, that is a really smart idea. You see, this is what I wanted when we're talking about an original take on Mario Party for a portable console. It's not necessarily a ton of fun, it's difficult to come back against someone who's in the lead, the visuals are overall pretty bland and unoriginal, and in the later stages you'll be repeating the same boss battles that you just did not too long beforehand. But it's still an original concept. That's not terrible, so it's a noteworthy attempt in my opinion. Probably why we saw a return in Super Mario Party, which was pretty fun there too. We got no stick falling toy this time around, but I think I can manage. Aside from that, there are a couple of extra modes, and they kinda fall flat. Once again, they threw together a bunch of ideas and hoped for the best. There's a random rhythm game in here. It has no bearing on the rest of the game, the songs you can choose are okay, and the actual game part isn't that fun, so why? And then there's the minigames, and they're pretty unremarkable as well. Star Rush features a shockingly small number of them, but we also have the Coinathon mode. This kind of makes up for it. Characters race around a board based on the coins that you pick up in time-based games, while also picking up some items along the way to benefit yourself and screw over your opponents. It's fast, it's frantic, and it's fun. Holy cow, we have a fun one here, everybody. Listen, Star Rush isn't gonna win any awards or anything like that, but it's not that terrible, so that's nice, I guess. It is definitely better than Island Tour though, so things are beginning to look up. I shouldn't have said that out loud. Mario Party is a massive, successful franchise, and it should be celebrated. How did they screw up such a basic idea? The final game we have today is Mario Party The Top 100, bringing together the top 100 minigames from the 10 console games and throwing them onto the 3DS. And it really doesn't do much more than that. I have multiple questions. First off, why is this on the 3DS? I am all for remaking classics, but shouldn't this be on the Switch instead? Wouldn't that have made more sense? I would argue it's tougher mashing buttons or spinning the circle pad on a 3DS than on a controller, so some of the games that we have here just don't feel right. Also, the top 100. According to who? Nobody asked me which games were good. Certainly would not have put Crank to Rank on there. Definitely none of the chance games. Those only kinda work when you're playing the board game. There's no dungeon duos? That seemed like a shoo-in as far as I'm concerned. That is one of the best 2v2 games in the series. Ultimately, what we have here, it's not a terrible collection. I just think the name The Top 100 is very misleading. It's not the top 100. It's just 100. Thankfully, Booksquirm is here. That's nice. Hell, that's a top 10 right there. None of the minigames from Mario Party 6 utilize the day-night system. That's really lame. That's what made those games special in the first place. Some entries also only have very little representation here. It's kind of weird not simply picking 10 minigames from each of the 10 console games to make things even. Oh, and we do have a board game based on Star Rush, and there's only one very tiny board. Come on, why? Admittedly, I did enjoy Minigame Island. That made a comeback here. It's the main single-player mode where you just plow through a bunch of the minigames in order. That's it. It is a fun ride, because I already enjoyed these minigames in the better console versions. But if you can find the game for cheap, Top 100 may be worth it alone just for this mode. It is the most substantial and varied mode of any of the 3DS Mario Parties. It's a sad state of affairs, but that's where we are. If we had returning boards and more returning modes, we would have a potential masterpiece here. Believe it or not, there's a lot more to Mario Party than just the minigames. I played through it, had a decent time, put the console down, didn't really feel much of anything afterwards. And yeah, that's Mario Party The Top 100. Oh, but hey, at least we have 3D support. Whoa. Dang. It's like I really want to be playing something else instead. I really don't want to be that much of a downer here, but it's safe to say that the legacy of portable Mario Party games is absolutely wild. Mario Party DS is the clear highlight here since, you know, it's an actual Mario Party game. The other four certainly experiment with relatively interesting ideas, but aside from some bright moments in Star Rush and Top 100, and of course Advance's Falling Stick, truly a gem of the GBA library, it all just feels like a waste of time. Once ND Cube took over the series, it felt like simply a matter of releasing games as much as they possibly could, but not releasing quality ones. Mario Party may not be for everybody, I understand that, but there is still an identity to uphold because it has a massive fan base. Either stick to what works and polish it up really nicely, or really dedicate some time to your original idea before putting out a finished product. Don't just make some software where you roll a dice on a board and call it a day. Definitely check out Mario Party DS, think about Star Rush, laugh at the rest. That is my best recommendation. If we never get a dedicated handheld console from Nintendo again, then we can confidently say that the portable Mario Party games is one hell of a 5-game long roller coaster of a sub-series. Maybe if the next Mario Party game on Switch has handheld play, then we'll have something to look forward to. It can't possibly get any worse than these. Just please bring back the falling stick toy. That's all I ask. It's all I'm asking. I'm a simple man. I see a stick. I want it to fall. I like to think you all think the same way.